Greetings swingers and welcome to episode 4 of the Electro Swing Podcast, brought to you by Electro Swing Thing and hosted by me, Offbeat. This week I'm joined by London-based singer-songwriter Sonia Elisheva. A relative newcomer to Electro Swing, Sonia only began releasing music in 2020 but has quickly risen to become one of the most recognisable new talents in the scene. In this interview, we talk about her rapid ascension, her dual heritage and how this has influenced her music, and we discuss her upcoming debut album entitled Black Sea, which is coming out this April. In addition to this, we cover her creative process, the highs and lows of social media, and much, much more. So sit back and enjoy the latest episode of the Electro Swing Podcast with Sonia Elisheva. Sonia, thank you very much for joining us on the Electro Swing Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me. It's good to be here.
You're very welcome. So let's start off with who you are. For anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and whereabouts you're from?
Yeah, so I'm Sonia. I live in London, but I'm from the suburbs. So I'm from a little town called Egham, which most people probably haven't heard of, but it's next to a town called Staines, famous for Ali G TV show.
Say that,
and yeah, everyone is like, and Thorpe Park. Yeah, that's kind of our only claim to fame.
The famous landmarks.
Exactly, yeah. Place to be, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But you live in London now?
Yeah, I live in London.
And that features quite heavily in your music?
Yeah, I think, obviously, I grew up in the suburbs, so although I wasn't living in the city, I feel like the culture is quite similar. Plus, I think just the main artists that have really influenced me in songwriting and in singing have been from London. So people like Amy Winehouse and Lily Allen, I feel like being from London is such a core part of their artistic identity. I'm sure it's like trickled into my own artistry in some ways.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So how would you describe your sound, your music, for anyone who's not heard it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't know. I would say it's a mix of jazzy vocals with electronic beats, definitely like music you can dance to, but it does have a lot of crossover with lots of genres. I've had other people describing it as, someone the other day called it brat swing, which I quite
swing.
like.
Okay,
brat
that's cool.
Swing.
That's like a new subgenre I've not heard.
New subgenre.
I
don't quite know what it means, but I like it. And someone else called it electro swag, which I also quite like. That's
cool too, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really know what it is. It's a blend. It's definitely like a hybrid of lots of different genres.
I need something to scream about, but you're way too good to me. Give me a reason to get it out. I wish you were so good to me. I need something to scream about, but you're way too good to me. Give me a reason to get it out. I wish you were so good to me.
So you kind of fall under the category of electro swing, whether that's brat swing or electro swag or any of the other variations of it. But I think people and Spotify know you as an electro swing artist. Do you think that is an accurate description, or would you say that you're more of like a hybrid artist?
I think it's definitely accurate to call me an electro swing artist. I think because electro swing has influenced so much of what I've written and what I've released. And a lot of what I listen to just outside of my own music is electro swing. So of course, it's going to feature heavily in what I'm creating as well. But I do think that it doesn't fit in the classic electro swing definition, let's say. It doesn't really sound like perhaps your typical electro swing tracks, but that doesn't mean I think that I don't fall in the category, because I think there is so much influence from it in there as well.
So when I was looking on Spotify at your catalogue of music, your first track was from 2020, is that right?
Yeah, it was Golden Days with LVDS, yeah.
Nice, very nice song. I actually didn't know that was you until I started researching you for this podcast. Because I heard that song, not 2020, maybe like 21 or 22 or something. I remember hearing it, remember hearing your voice and thinking that sounds wicked. Didn't know it was you, then discovered you again like a couple of years later. And then when I went back and was like looking at your old songs, I was like, oh shit, that was actually her. So yeah, I didn't.
That's so funny. Yeah, that was kind of my entry into electro swing. I hadn't done any electro swing before that point.
Okay, so how did that come about?
It's kind of a funny story. In 2020, it was obviously COVID, and I didn't really have any plans to be a musician. Like, I wanted to, but I didn't think it was like a possible or realistic career for me. But because we just had so much time in COVID and like everything was cut off and there was like nothing going on, I was very bored. And so I just started an Instagram account of me singing like jazz covers of pop songs, basically. Which in itself was like a big deal for me because like the thought of putting something online was like mortifying to me. Like I couldn't,
Really?
I honestly, it was really, I wanted to do it for years, but up until COVID, I basically never had the guts to do it. And I think I only did it because everyone else was kind of doing that kind of stuff. And I felt like that gave me an opportunity almost, but like the thought of it was like, oh my God, I can't post myself online. So, but I started doing it though during COVID, and I built a small audience, like small in the scheme of things, but big for me because I never expected anyone to watch my videos or to watch me sing. And then because of that, I think that gave me a bit of confidence. And I thought, maybe it'd be really nice to actually start writing and releasing my own stuff, but I don't quite know how to do it. And I thought, well, I'd love to do jazz, but jazz is very like general. It's very like a very big genre. Maybe I should do more of a niche. And I remembered about electro swing, and I thought that could be a good one for me because electro swing is sort of a mix. It like is jazz, but it's very danceable and it's electronic, and that's the kind of stuff that I like. So I literally just typed in on Instagram electro swing label and just to see. And the first thing that came up was electro swing thing, which is Wolfgang's label. And I found the email, and looking back on it, it's quite like audacious for me, but I was just like, well, I don't have any music. I have nothing to show for myself, but whatever, life is short and we're in a pandemic, so who cares? And I just sent an email to Wolfgang basically with my Instagram link, and I was like, look, sorry, I don't have anything to show you, but I do have just these covers on Instagram. If you need a singer, I'm available. And I like didn't check my emails like for a while. I didn't see it, and it'd gone into spam actually, and he'd actually answered me.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, maybe I've lost the opportunity. But he basically said, oh yeah, sure, I've got this artist LVDS. He's releasing his album Golden Days, and he needs a singer for the final track if you want to do it. And I was like, great, yeah. If I still can, I'm in. Yeah, I'll do it. So I quickly ran to a studio and recorded the top line for LVDS, and I went on his track, which was his debut album, and that kind of opened the door on the world of electro swing to me. I didn't really know much about it before then, but I then realized it's this like whole community of so many amazing artists doing so many different things, and that led me to collaborate with other people like Oddchap and Wolfgang as well.
Amazing. What a great story, and like an inspirational story as well for other people who might be in the same boat.
Just send me an email. You never know. You honestly just never know. I had nothing to my name. It was like no reason. Wolfgang just like helped me out. I mean,
just connected you.
Yeah. I don't know whether I don't know if I'd be sat here talking to you right now had I not sent that email. So
yeah, incredible. Well, yeah, I mean, Wolfgang is an amazing connector. I think pretty much everyone in the scene has collaborated with him or something to do with his label at some point. So
definitely,
yeah, that's really cool. So you did that, Golden Days, and then you said you collaborated with Oddchap and Wolfgang. Can you tell us a little bit more about your sort of release history after that? Like, who did you work with next? How did that come about? Like, just tell us a little bit more about your other releases.
Yeah, so after that, I kind of just dipped between a lot of genres. I think I was just experimenting around, and just because like suddenly basically a door had been opened to me to kind of pursue a music career, which I, as I said, didn't think that was possible for me. But I suddenly saw it as an opportunity to actually just experiment and try different things, because I was figuring out what I'm good at and what I should do and what I wanted to do as well. So I did, my collaborations with some electro swing artists, but also in the background I was doing other things. So I wrote and released an EP, which was kind of R&B, actually, R&B and soul. I went more into jazz as well, and I released like independently, so as an independent artist for a while. And then a couple of years ago, I decided that I'd like to do an album and that I wanted to do more of an electro swing album. And I really wanted to work with Freshly Squeezed, who are my current label, just because they've been so important in the electro swing scene for so many years, and I knew how well respected they were. And so I wanted to work with them. And so I approached them with a couple of demo ideas for doing the album. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I want to talk a little bit about like your style and your influences and stuff. And you mentioned just before about Amy Winehouse and Lily Allen and the kind of London side of things. But you've also, I've seen mention your kind of Eastern European roots in your music as well. And I'm just interested like how much of a part that plays and how that kind of shows up in your music?
Yeah, I think the London aspect is obvious when you listen to the way I sing and how I write. But I think the Eastern European is more subtle. But I do think in the music that I'm going to release later, it'll become more evident how that has impacted me as an artist, because it's something that the reason it hasn't been so much present in my music this far is that, like, I think over the past few years I've just been very much reflecting on identity and who I am, and realizing that actually growing up with different cultures has made me kind of who I am as a person, also as an artist, and therefore it was really important for me to bring that into my music. So I do think it will become clearer when people listen to my music and my album in the future. But I think just in general, growing up with, you know, a mum from England and a dad from Eastern Europe, and having that kind of mix just made me kind of open-minded to different cultures and different influences. And that's been really important, I think, when writing, because I think I always approach writing music with a very open mind. I think there's nothing off bounds, and I like to experiment.
Okay, cool. So when it becomes more apparent in the future, is that going to be more kind of like lyrically, the things that you're singing about, or more musically, like the influences in the instrumentation and the sound in general, or a mix of the two?
Yeah, so it's a mix of both. It's going to be melodically and also lyrically. Do you want to talk about the album now? Because I feel like this is a...
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah.
So I think in my album, people will definitely understand more about who I am and the Eastern European influence that's there, because I've called the album Black Sea. Part of the reason for that is that Black Sea for me is a concept for identity, and not really knowing quite where you belong, because I felt that a lot growing up. I remember being at school and like everyone was British, like everyone was really British, and I found it like I was almost like embarrassed that I wasn't fully British as well, and it was almost something that I wanted to be, you know, the same as everybody else. But as I've got older, I realised that actually, like, I love being a bit different and having different cultural influences, and that's actually something that's really important to me. So even though sometimes it might feel like you don't quite belong anywhere, I think that can also be like a strength. And so Black Sea is obviously the sea between Ukraine and Russia, and it doesn't belong to anywhere. And that's why I wanted to use that as the album title, because that's how I feel. Like, I don't really feel, and it actually links to the music as well, because I don't think, like I said at the beginning, the music quite fits into one box. I feel like my identity doesn't fit into one box, but I feel like that's okay. That's good. You don't need to always be able to completely define yourself and put yourself in a category.
For sure, it makes you much more interesting. So your album's coming out in April. You've released a few singles recently that I feel stylistically have felt kind of more consistent than some of your previous stuff. Like now that you've said that your earlier stuff was more about experimenting and kind of finding your sound, I feel like your more recent stuff feels more like you've found that sound and it's more kind of congruent. So is the album gonna be more like that? And are these singles from that album, or is your album gonna be expanding on that and building on that and more different sort of stuff?
I would say it's going to be expanding on the singles. The singles are going to be on the album, and what you've heard is representative in the sense that that is the style, and I do feel like I found my sound now. So it will be that sound, but expanded in the sense that I think people might be surprised by kind of how personal some of the tracks are, where I feel like in the singles perhaps that hasn't come across as much, but I think it will when people listen to the album. I do think people will understand me as a person and artist a lot better. And I feel that that singles have been developed upon by exploring these other aspects of my cultural identity and bringing in different like melodic and lyrical ideas from different cultures.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And it's interesting that you're doing an album at all, because I've had a few of these conversations with people now, and a theme that's recurringly come up is that Spotify is kind of like driving the way people make music nowadays. So a lot of people make singles and then don't make albums. They just want to keep releasing singles because that's what the algorithm wants. So is this a deliberate choice to make an album so that you can express yourself in a way that you couldn't with just singles? Or like what are your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I have had people saying to me, you know, you don't need to do an album. There's no need for it. Just do singles. That's the way forward. But to me, that just doesn't express the artistry fully. I don't think that you can fully realize a project just with singles, at least not for me. Maybe other people can. I don't like working like that. I like working on projects. And that's not to say that wouldn't also put out, and have, if you look at my catalogue, put out a lot of singles over the years as well. But for me, a full project is where you can really properly execute an idea. And I had an idea, and the only way I could execute it was with a full album. And yeah, I'm aware that commercially, financially, it's not probably as, rewarding as putting out singles all the time these days. But I think it's important to ask yourself, but why are you really doing music? Like what gives you joy within it? And for me, it's putting a project together, having an idea and seeing it through. And I want to do the album. And also all the artists that I love, all of them have albums that I adore, like albums that have changed my life, albums that have been the soundtrack to my life. So it was always, it was non-negotiable for me that I was always at some point going to do an album.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. You do like really good music videos for your singles as well. They look really professional and they're like fun to watch. How important are they to you? Are they like a promotional tool, or is that like an extension of the artistic expression?
No, it's definitely an extension of the artistic expression for sure. And it actually is a similar point to what I said about the album, where a lot of people say now you don't need to do music videos because you can just do a 20-second clip on Instagram. True, you can, but that doesn't express for me everything that I want to say. And it takes away, I don't know, like, I just love music videos. I feel like they really bring a song to life. I mean, there must be like loads of songs you can think of in your head right now where like when you listen to the song, you can see the video in your head. And to me, that's really important. And if I had the budget for it, I'd probably do a music video for everything, honestly, because I really think it's such an amazing thing to be able to put a visual to a song that you've created. And it just really adds something that I don't think you can achieve with a 20-second reel or a TikTok. So even though it might not be, again, the most commercially, the best decision to do or whatever, for me, it's just a really amazing way to visually express the song.
I completely agree. Like you mentioned, there's songs that like you can think of where you can picture the video. And that's true. There's loads of songs that I love where I can like imagine the video in my head. But even more so when you've written it yourself. Like if you've written the song, presumably you have like visuals in your head as you're writing. So to be able to express that in a different medium, because obviously music is just sound. So if you're also sharing what you're seeing in your head with your listeners, that's like another way of expressing like what's going on inside.
Yeah, it really adds to the song. And like the Dark Eyes music video, when I finished that, I was just like, oh, this sounds witchy. Like it's giving me like spooky, witchy vibes. And I just knew I had to do a music video with, relating to that. And actually now every time I think of Dark Eyes, I just associate it with me dressed up in white boots, dragging a man's body through the woods, which is going to sound really weird if you haven't watched the Dark Eyes music video.
I might have to put a clip in so people get the context for that.
Yeah, the context. But yeah, like that was just so fun to do as well. And like, not only is it a good artistic expression, it's just really fun. I really enjoy like the whole process of putting together a video and having an idea and then seeing it come to life.
Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about electro swing as a genre and the sound overall. How did you first discover it?
I discovered it from my brother. He was really into electro swing in like 2012, 2013, I think. He was listening to a lot of Power of Stella. And I was just like, what's this? This is cool. I've never heard something like this before, where it's, like vintage beats, but you can dance to it. I don't know, like it like piqued my interest immediately. But I guess, like I said earlier, I didn't really know about the whole world and community until 2020.
Okay, interesting. And I think so far 100% hit rate of people whose first encounter with electro swing was Power of Stella.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably not going to be a podcast without his name being brought up.
I don't think I've spoken to a single person yet who that wasn't their first artist that they found. So that's interesting. You just mentioned about your brother being into it in like 2012, 2013. Most of the people I've spoken to agree that that was kind of like the peak era for electro swing as a genre. Like that was when it had its most like mainstream popularity. If you could go back in time and be releasing the music that you're or making the music that you're making now, but in that period when it was like more commercially popular, would you do it, or are you happy being in the era that we're in now when it's less commercially popular, but you can, I don't know, you're doing your own thing now? What would your answer be?
It's an interesting question. Like it would be nice to be releasing music in a time when there's more opportunity perhaps within the genre, but at the same time, I believe that you've got to make the best of the time you have and what with what you've been given, really. And I would never choose to go back to anything because I feel like I'm supposed to be here doing it now. And although, yeah, of course, I think it's a shame that there isn't as much commercial opportunity right now as there was back then. But at the same time, there's also so much potential within it right now. And we're living in a time where we have social media, like we talked about before, but that is an opportunity which might not have been around as much then. I don't think I would even have my career without it. So I wouldn't go back because I feel like all the steps have led me to where I am right now.
Also, there's a lot of stuff that happened in that period that has like paved the way for now. So for example, like your first opportunity of reaching out to Electro Swing Thing and then getting paired with LVDS, like that label didn't exist back then. So it took like that period of time for that label to be born, for that opportunity to then present itself for you in 2020. Okay, so what do you think about the state of the genre/scene in 2025?
I think it's cool because it is, like I've said, like there is a lot of untapped potential within it. I just feel like, because it is so new compared to so many other genres, that I do feel like there's so many things that can be done within it. But at the same time, I think it's a bit of a tough time to be there as well, because I don't think, specifically where I am in the UK, there aren't many other electro swing acts, at least not ones performing live. So I think that makes the live scene challenging, and it's quite hard, when you're applying for festivals or things like that. If people aren't aware what electro swing is, it's hard to get on the bill because they're like, we don't know what this genre is. Like it's not, I think there's a bit of a scene missing specifically here in the UK. And I think that makes it a bit challenging.
Yeah. And one interesting thing is, like, I've asked this question to a few people and the sort of topic of live shows or the lack of has come up. And then quite a few comments that I've had on the videos and the clips and stuff have been people saying, I'd go to a live electro swing event. That'd be amazing. So I think there is an appetite for it still. But
interesting.
Just need to, like, I don't know, be strategic about where they get put on and, I don't know, building up like enough of an audience for it. But there's definitely people who would still want to go to that sort of thing.
That's good to know. I was literally having this conversation with some friends the other week because we were talking about this, and we were like, why is there like no kind of scene for this when we know that there are people listening? Because if you look at Spotify, you see the numbers, there are people listening. So would these people not want to come and see it live? And we were thinking, like, should we do something in London? But we weren't sure. We don't know, because we don't know if there are enough other artists who would want to come and perform as well. So I think that's the other thing. It would be nice if more artists kind of joined the community and maybe tried electro swing.
And what do you think about the future of the genre? Can you make any predictions about where you think it's going to go in the next 5 or 10 years?
Ooh, predictions. I don't know.
Using your witchy skills from...
Yeah, no, I need to manifest some witchy intuition right now.
Yeah.
I hope that there's going to be a resurgence within it, and I hope that the artists in the audience is going to diversify as well. And I'd like to think that could happen, and that more people from different cultures and nationalities and ages get involved in the community and not only listening to but also creating it. I think that's how genres grow. So I'm hoping that there'll be more people who would like to be part of the community and create some fresh sounds, and that it has a little bit like another moment, like similar to what it had in 2012, 2013. I think that'd be cool.
So you perform with a live band, is that right?
Yeah, I do. So it's changed and evolved over the years. So I feel like in the beginning of my career, I was doing more jazz. And so I performed with a big jazz band. It was like a 7-piece swing band, which was amazing. And I absolutely loved it. But logistically, it was a bit of a nightmare because I was doing everything myself, like organizing the rehearsals and the payments and the shows and booking, marketing, everything. So that was really hard. And now that I'm doing more electro swing or electronic music, the band's a little bit smaller now. It's like a 4 or 5 piece, and we use a mix of live instruments and track. And I would say, yeah, the show is really energetic, really fun. Try and keep it just like, I would say we just want people to have a good time. And yeah, we try and, but we also, I think the jazz elements are still there because I do feel that's quite a core part of my artistic identity. So I do try and keep the jazz parts in as much as I can.
Can you tell us or talk to us a little bit about like your creative process as well? Because you're a songwriter, right? So you write your own lyrics and stuff. And I know you work with a couple of producers. So first of all, the songwriting process and the lyric writing, like, do you have a set process for that?
Yeah, I don't really have like one way of approaching it. There isn't like one thing I always do to be able to write a song. It's always kind of random how my songs come about. I think either I just at 2 a.m. will have a random melody in my head and I just like make a horrible voice note, like the worst voice note you've ever heard, but at least it gets the idea across. And then I kind of like can't sleep because I'm thinking, oh, this would be a really funny lyric, or this would be a really cool thing to write about. Or I might have already had something has happened, or I've thought about something, and I like the notes in my phone are a mess. That I literally have like thousands and thousands of notes because every time I have an idea, I'm like quickly write it down because maybe I can write a song about this. I'm sure lots of artists can relate to that. And yeah, so I usually end up bringing those horrible voice notes and messy notes to the producer. And I'm like, I think I've got an idea. I don't know how to approach it, but like, I think this is the idea. And then they are geniuses, so they can build songs around that idea. So there is either that, or sometimes I work with guitarists and pianists who are much better than myself. I can play them a little bit, but I'm not very good. So we'll come up with some chords and then we can build the song around that. Or in some cases, especially with collaborations, it's often the case that the producer sends me an instrumental and he asks me to write, he or she asks me to write a top line over it. So it can be any of those, really. That's the process.
I don't know if you have this, but like if I feel really inspired about something, I kind of need to jump on it straight away because the inspiration like fizzles out. And I've had it before where I've come up with like what I think is a great idea. And then I'm like, exactly like you, it's 2 a.m. I'm not doing this now. And then I'll leave it. And then a couple of days later, come back to it. And I'm just like, the magic's just gone. That like,
you definitely have to do it as soon as you can. Not always easy to do, especially when you're tired from being up at 2 a.m. with your crazy idea. But otherwise, you kind of forget what the point of it was and why you thought it was good in the first place. So you have to see it through as soon as you think you've got a good idea.
Yeah. And it does often come at the most inconvenient times as well.
Always. I don't think I would love it if it came at like a 2 p.m. That would be lovely. Like, you know, after lunch and I can just sit down and then get an early night. Never happens. Never has happened once.
So we're going to move on to the quickfire round. So try not to think too much about these and just answer them as spontaneously as possible. First question, what is the thing so far in your career that you are most proud of, either creatively or commercially?
I'm going to have to say my album. I know it's not out yet, but just I think because it was so hard to kind of get to this point, and it was always one of my dreams. So I'm very proud of it.
Awesome. What is the biggest challenge you faced so far?
Like everything. Can I say that? It's been one huge long challenge from the get-go. I think probably what I said earlier about the live shows, and, you know, because I don't really fit into one genre, I think that has been quite a challenge in terms of like getting people on board and getting booked and things like that. I think the genre thing can be a challenge for sure.
So if you could give your 2020 self any advice based on the like 5 years that have followed that, what would that be? I
would say to myself, your first instinct was the correct one. Listen
generally, or just about, is that about a specific thing that you've done?
No, that's honestly everything.
Okay.
That's my witchy intuition. I don't know, like I just think I've doubted myself many times over the years, and if I've had like a gut instinct about something, I haven't always followed through on it. Or if I felt something wasn't quite right, I haven't always said something. I haven't always voiced my opinion because I didn't have the confidence to do it. I didn't think that I was right. I kind of thought people that have been in the game longer than me knew better than me, which sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And I'd go back and just say, your instinct is right, and you have the right to say your opinion if you don't like something, especially when it comes to the creation of the song. If you're not happy with something, say it. Don't just nod, which I have been guilty of doing.
So what is one track that you've put out in the past that maybe didn't perform as well as you'd hoped, and that you wish more people had listened to and you can tell to go and listen to now?
I'm going to say Dark Eyes. Not because I think it didn't perform well, but I just really like that song.
Even more.
I feel like, I feel like that song really represents me very well. I think it kind of draws in all the aspects. It's like a little Eastern European sounding. It also sounds very London. It's quite funny. It's tongue in cheek. It's danceable. So I feel like it kind of sums me up. So if I was to ask anyone to listen to a track, I'd probably say Dark Eyes.
Cool. If you could collaborate with any artist, dead or alive, who would that be?
You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say George Michael.
Yeah?
I would, yes. I actually love George Michael.
Okay. Definitely wasn't expecting that.
No, I feel like people that know me would probably expect me to say that because like my friends know I love George.
Okay.
But I don't know, he's just been a really big inspiration to me. I just think he has had like the voice of a generation. Is an incredible songwriter. And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day, like 80s music reminded me of electro swing somehow, in the sense that 80s music was so fun, and it was so like you didn't need to take it too seriously, and it was all just about like the dancing of it and like going to the club, having a good time, which electro swing is very similar. So when I say collab with George Michael, I probably mean more specifically Wham, because I think I would have loved to do a collab with Wham. I just think that would be amazing and so fun, and somehow it feels in my head like it could go together with electro swing.
I do get what you mean. Like it's got like a theatrical quality to it, hasn't it? Like
theatrical, that's a great word. Yeah,
it's a bit
theatrical.
like over the top and a bit silly, but fun.
Yeah, exactly. So not so much George in his solo career era, because he was a bit more serious then, but more in the early bit when he was doing Wham. I feel like that would be amazing to do a collab.
Cool. So if electro swing didn't exist, what genre do you think you would be doing?
I think I'd be doing jazz. Because that is my background and my first love of singing music is jazz. So, and I still do have a dream one day to do a proper jazz album, like purely jazz. I think I will do that one day actually. So yeah, I'd be doing jazz.
What's one thing outside of music that your fans would be surprised to know about you?
Probably that I love to travel, and I have like a goal for myself that I want to go to every country in Europe. And I'm like 15 off at the moment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have 15 left. So I've done quite well. But there are like some little countries left that I don't have. I need to. And I haven't gone to loads of like places in the Balkans and stuff. So I do have quite a few left. But it's one of my goals. I don't know why, I just want to go to every country in Europe.
So any final words for fans of your music and the people that have like followed you and supported you so far? Just
thank you so much. Like I genuinely wouldn't be doing this or sat here if I didn't know I had your support behind me. And yeah, difficult for me to sincerely express it, but it does mean the world to me that people would listen to my music. So thank you.
Cool. And then shameless plugs. Obviously your album's coming out, so remind us one more time the title and the release date.
Title is Black Sea, and it's out on April 11th.
And anything else apart from that you would like to shout out or promote?
I think just if you're interested in coming to see me live, to sign up to my email updates to my newsletter, because that's the best place to find out when I'm performing. And then I would love to see people at a gig.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you very, very much, Sonia, for joining us. It's been a pleasure to chat. Yeah, and I wish you all the best with your album. And
thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to listening to it myself. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much.
So that was episode 4 of the Electro Swing Podcast with Sonia Elisheva. If you don't already follow her, go and check her out. Links to all her socials and music can be found in the description. And make sure you check out her debut album, Black Sea, when it drops this April. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us at Electro Swing Podcast on all major platforms and drop a comment to let me know what you think of the podcast so far and who else you'd like to see me interview. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with my next guest, so tune in then and I will catch you soon.